Family visa minimum income thresholds.
I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
Question is that this House do now adjourn. Mr. Keir.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I am pleased to have the opportunity to use the first adjournment debate that I've secured in this House to speak about the crucial issue of road safety in North Yorkshire. I've now been in Parliament for 7 months, and some of the most transformative change that I've witnessed in this place is when members respond to genuinely pressing local need, using every mechanism available to them to fight for their constituents. And this is one such case. In my rural constituency of Selby and Ainsty, dangerous drivers and inadequate speed calming measures mean residents in the communities I represent live in fear. According to data provided by the House of Commons Library, there have sadly been 36 fatal casualties in Selby and Ainsty between 2018 and 2022, second only to Skipton and Ripon, where 46 fatal casualties occurred across the same period. The root causes of these issues in my area are clear. Selby and Ainsty has multiple arterial high-speed roads which pass through village communities with inadequate traffic calming measures and rural lanes and streets that were never designed for the motor traffic that we see today. When these infrastructure challenges are combined with the actions of dangerous and reckless drivers, they can have truly lethal consequences. In the village of Hambleton last month, a person tragically lost their life in a very serious collision. They were attempting to cross the A63, a dangerous main road through the village on which cars travel at unsafe speeds, despite it being surrounded by residential new build estates and being very close to a local school. But this isn't an isolated incident. There have been multiple accidents on this specific stretch of road, and yet despite the work of local residents who have set up a road safety action group, the danger remains, and I would be grateful if the Minister could provide some advice about what measures are at this community's disposal to push so that action is taken, action that I will certainly continue to fight for in this House. Now, I want to make something very clear. In North Yorkshire, too much of the debate on road safety has been wrongly co-opted into a wasteful, irresponsible and distracting form of culture war by the party opposite. Now, the Conservative Party holds a majority on North Yorkshire Council. The executive position for highways has 10 of the county's 12 MPs. If it wanted to do something about road safety in my constituency and across the county, they could do so. Instead, they have spent recent months jumping at shadows, fighting anti-motorist policies which don't exist, and opposing 20-mile-per-hour blanket bans that have never been proposed. All the while, communities in the Selby district are crying out for political representatives who will take the issue of road safety seriously. Now, what is too often forgotten in this debate is that when a motorist steps out of their car in a village like Cawood or a town like Sherburn and Elmet, they too are local people who want to enjoy their communities in safety with their family. Rather than fomenting divisions that don't exist, this government and North Yorkshire Council need to sit up, get serious and listen to the concerns of local residents in my area who cannot wait another day for action to be taken. Now, the Minister could forgive residents across North Yorkshire for their confusion at the mixed messages they've received from the party opposite. Confusion that has meant that common sense ways to limit dangerous driving have not been taken. In a piece of literature sent recently to local people in my area, both the local Conservative candidate and the party's candidate for North Yorkshire Mayor registered their opposition to Welsh-style blanket 20-mile-per-hour limits, a limit which, to my knowledge, not a single representative in either main party in the county has proposed. And yet, in September, that very same mayoral candidate, in his role as Executive Member for Highways and Transportation at North Yorkshire Council, praised the most significant 20-mile-an-hour zone that the Council has ever introduced in Harrogate. And I agree, I applaud these efforts, but I ask, why in Harrogate can there be a grown-up discussion about road safety with 7 schools having new 20-mile-per-hour zones placed around them, but in the Selby district we have to deal with unsafe roads and suffer under a Conservative Party distracted by waging a culture war that simply does not exist? I'd be glad to give way.
Well, firstly, congratulate him for securing his first adjournment debate and thank him for giving way in it. I have to say I don't recognise his characterisation of the way the local council approaches road safety issues, and I'll give the example that he mentions of Harrogate. That particular campaign came from two residents, to be specific, Hazel Peacock and Jenny Marks, and then it led into a broader community campaign. I think the issue of 20 miles an hour around schools is fairly uncontroversial, particularly when it's taken alongside such measures as crossings or barriers along the roadside. And I found that sensible measures like that have brought communities together, and that might be a way to help him in Selby and Ainsty.
I thank the Honourable Member for his intervention, and to an extent I agree with his sentiment, and that it is uncontroversial to have common sense measures, to have 20-mile-per-hour limits in villages, outside schools and in urban areas. I wish the debate was treated with the seriousness it deserves in my part of North Yorkshire by the Executive Member for Highways, who has been able to achieve that work in Harrogate. So, by attempting to turn sensible measures such as 20-mile-an-hour zones when they're necessary into wedge issues in my part of North Yorkshire, the local Conservative Party disregard the concerns of local residents, and meanwhile the council is not taking action in villages like Lumby, Monkfryston and Hambleton, where immediate safety concerns are acute and are badly damaging communities. People want their council to get on with making their villages and towns safe, and in some cases the excuses for inaction just do not add up. Now, I would like to return to the community of Hambleton, where a local person tragically lost their life. Now, the A63 bisects that village. It is a long, straight stretch of road used by parents with prams, elderly residents and large groups of school children. It is crying out for pedestrian islands, but North Yorkshire have argued that footfall in the road is insufficient, using data from a study that was taken during a school holiday. And though I am pleased that they have committed to reassessing the area due to the fatality that occurred, an accident shouldn't have needed to happen for people to realise that action needed to be taken. In Monkfryston, over 800 local residents petitioned for a pedestrian crossing on the A64, and I would like to tell those 800 residents that they continue to have my full support. Now, North Yorkshire Council has acknowledged in my correspondence with them that speeds are excessive on the road, but have refused to implement the crossing because they deem that there is not a suitable location. Now, I know installation of traffic calming measures is a complicated business, but this road is the key link between Selby and Leeds, providing people with access to the A1. Once again, it bisects the village, leaving residents on the other side with no access to local amenities. And I would ask the Minister if he could join me in putting the case to North Yorkshire that Monkfryston cannot be held back and disregarded any longer in its campaign for common sense traffic calming measures. I now wish to turn to the wider issue of speeding, which I know is of concern to all of our constituents. In Brayton, which lies just to the south of Selby, there has been a consistent and widespread concern about speeding along Bath Lane. And I'm glad that by working with local agencies such as North Yorkshire Police, residents' concerns have been heard and measures have been taken to tackle the chronic problem of speeding on Bath Lane. There is now a speed-activated warning sign along the road, and North Yorkshire Police are in the process of identifying a suitable location for camera van sites, which will do much to ensure that drivers along the road follow the speed limit and ultimately save lives in Brayton. Now, regrettably, speeding in my constituency is seen in other places like Cawood, an extremely rural village that does not have roads that are fit for the amount of traffic that it sees and the cars going at the speed that they do. I recently held a drop-in event for the community there, and a significant number of residents raised the issue of speeding and dangerous driving on Sherburn Street. Now, I want to make it clear that the safety of residents in Cawood should be a top priority of both North Yorkshire Council and North Yorkshire Police. And though I have been assured by the Council that there are several existing traffic calming measures in Sherburn Street, they are in reality having minimal impact on speeding in Cawood. And I would greatly appreciate any support the Minister could give me and local residents in working with North Yorkshire Council and the police to push for measures which provide a lasting solution to this issue. To bring my contribution to a close, it is clear that we have a lot to do, both in Selby and Ainsty and across North Yorkshire, to improve road safety. Every single injury and road death in our communities is one too many. And we must all work together, preventing this debate from being reduced into meaningless, wasteful and distracting culture wars when our constituents are crying out for common sense change. We need to ensure that local families and the communities in which they live are protected across the length and breadth of our great county, and I look forward to working with anyone who is willing to make this a reality. Thank you.
Minister.
Well,
Can I congratulate the honourable gentleman on securing his first debate, and I think it's the first time I've had the opportunity to answer questions to him in the House of Commons, so I can congratulate him on his win in the by-election. He is born, as I researched, in 1998, which is a very scary thought for those of us who well remember 1998, and it is a particular concern to me that when he first came to the House, he indicated to me that he used to work for my first parliamentary staffer, Pete McManus, who he described as my boss. Now, it is a worry when things are so proximate and that the age of individual members of Parliament is catching up on you. I'm sure that is not an issue for anybody else in the House, but it is definitely for me. So I take this debate very seriously, and he rightly raises the concerns of his constituents. I pass on my condolences on behalf of the government, on behalf of all people here today, for the recent fatality that has taken place. And before responding to the essence of what he wants to say, I want to try and make it clear that clearly every death or serious injury on our roads up and down the country, not just in North Yorkshire, is a tragedy, and we continue to work tirelessly to improve road safety for all users. And that's not just drivers, it is obviously pedestrians, it is motorcyclists, cyclists and mobility scooter users. However, the facts are that Britain has some of the safest roads in the world. The most recent records show that 1,711 people were killed and 28,000 people were seriously injured on our roads. However, any individual so affected is clearly a tragedy for themselves and their families, and we want to work to try and address that. There is a number of different points I want to try and make. Clearly, speed calming measures were a massive part of his debate, and local authorities, as he rightly identifies, have powers under the Highways Act 1980 to install a range of traffic calming measures. Clearly, road humps, chicanes, other such features have all been proven to reduce inappropriate vehicle speed, which, as well as reducing the risk of collisions, also lessens the severities of any that do occur. There are also ability to install other measures to improve road safety, such as pedestrian crossings and 20-mile-an-hour speed limits. Now, the Department for Transport produces a wide range of good practice advice to help local authorities design and then deliver such measures. It is for the local council to decide what measures may be appropriate in different locations, taking into account a vast number of different criteria. The department does not set a numerical criteria for footfall or collision numbers, which must be met to justify installation of such safety measures. The local authorities can choose to set out their own such criteria, but that is a decision for them. Can I turn to the vexed issue of 20-mile-an-hour zones? Because clearly, any individual in this House will be acutely aware that the introduction of the effective, it's not total, but it is an effective 20-mile-an-hour zone in Wales, has been a singularly unpopular policy that has caused great concern, and it is certainly not something that the government supports. But then, on the other hand, there is not a single member of Parliament, as far as I am aware, who would be against the concept of 20-mile-an-hour zones around schools. Now, in between that, there has to be a happy medium, and that is a local authority decision in which clearly all manner of different factors can be made as to whether it influences the quality of life, the road safety, the environment, the local economy, and all manner of other things. It also should take into account our plan for drivers, which the Department for Transport have set out, and to assist local authorities specifically, we are updating the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit guidance for England to ensure consistency on setting them. And I hope that will provide assistance to the local authority going forward. Can I touch on a few specific points? In relation to the statistics for his constituency, and I asked for the statistics dating back some considerable time. So the source is the Stats 19 data adjusted for changes in reporting systems, but the KSI casualties on an adjusted basis showed 46 in 2022, but the figure in 2009, for example, was 138. All numbers are too high. We all accept that. But I don't think it should be, there was much criticism of the local authority in this government. I can gently point back to him that if I take his 2009 figures, when this was not the government and the Labour government was in charge, the figure was 138 for his constituency. In the latest figures of 2022, it was 46. That is a significant difference, and it has been in single figures since 2013. Now, one can bandy statistics around, but what is quite clear is it has come down significantly. There are a couple of key points to note on that. The first is that clearly there has been significant investment in North Yorkshire in the investment that's taken place in the A59 Keck-Skill scheme, the A164 and Jockslodge Junction improvement, the A1237 York Outer Ring Road dualling, the A1079 improvement scheme, the A1237 York Outer Ring Road. I merely make the point that those are improvements to roads which inevitably will improve safety. And on the point of road safety, of course.
Thank you very much for giving way. Just on the point of investment in the area, he will obviously have seen the local transport fund allocations allocated to York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority, £380 million allocated only yesterday. Will that sum of money have the capacity, when it's decided we have our local mayor in place, could that be used to fund road safety improvements through capital projects?
Well, Minister.
The answer is yes, quite simply, and it is a legitimate point to say that new money can be, which was announced only yesterday and with visits up and down the country as a result of the Prime Minister's decision in respect of the second leg of HS2, has seen £4.7 billion of local transport fund being made available to a large number of local authorities, which is a 7-year fund for individual local authorities outside city regions who receive what is called the CRSTS fund in the North and in the Midlands. Now, the LTF includes £2.5 billion for local authorities in the North, £2.2 billion for local authorities in the Midlands, and that funding will be available from the 1st of April 2025. That allows local authorities or combined authorities to plan, set out their processes, consult in the appropriate way, and then deliver going forward. The York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority will receive £379 million, so I correct him by £1 million, of that local transport fund. And I think that will be game-changing. And there was much criticism of the local authority, but I met with King Duncan and members of the local representatives and members of Parliament when I visited the region at the beginning of January, and I was impressed by their commitment to try and do transformational work for North Yorkshire, which includes making the case for further funding, which we have been delighted, as my honourable friend outlined, to set forth and provide. It can address, that funding can address road improvements, it can address pelican crossings, it can do road safety measures, it can do traffic calming measures, it can do other particular points, and the guidance will be published shortly, but it can only be welcomed, in my humble opinion, that this is dramatic new money to assist with specific transport policies. I go on with a few extra points that I wanted to try and make. The road safety is determined fundamentally, though, by individual drivers. And we should acknowledge that we can all throw brickbats at local authorities or government, but we require individual drivers to change their ways. And my old friend, I believe, when he was in the Department for Transport, instituted the changes to the Highway Code. He instituted changes to the driving test. Now, the long and the short of it is, the test that those of us who are of more advanced years took, and the test that is taken by someone of more recent years, are dramatically different. And the Highway Code is dramatically different. It includes a hierarchy of road users. It makes it very clear that there is a greater degree of reliance upon safety. It is also very much something that we are conscious that the driver needs to be better qualified. And I compare the old test to the new test, there is no comparison whatsoever. And that, with respect, has made a difference, which can be seen in the reduction of the safety statistics. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I want to try and set out some of the other government interventions that have been done, because there is the Safer Roads Fund, which invested £47.5 million to fund 28 schemes taking the total to tackle our most dangerous roads to 147.5 million over 83 schemes since 2017. There's interventions to legislate on some of the most dangerous activity on our roads. Clearly, the rules on mobile phones have changed. We've increased the sentence for causing death by dangerous driving and careless driving whilst under the influence of drink or drugs from 14 years to life imprisonment. We've increased the disqualification period for those causing death by dangerous driving and for causing death by careless driving when under the influence of drink or drugs from 2 to 5 years. We've also undertaken a number of projects to improve the safety of our roads, whether it is the Roads Policing Review, which has seen an increase from 15 to 42 of the forces putting road policing in their policing crime plans, and 30 including road safety. Roads policing is now a strategic policing requirement since February 2023. That sounds techie, but it genuinely makes a difference. There's Project Radar, which is a systematic investigation creating new opportunities to combine and compare data across government departments, arms length body and policing. This is identifying and intercepting the most dangerous vehicles on our roads. I could go on. There is clearly work being done in respect. Of course I'll go away to the Honourable Lady.
I thank the honourable member for giving way, and this is a wonderful debate this evening, and one that I would commend the honourable member for bringing to the floor. I thank the Minister for permitting me to intervene. He'll be very aware of my interest in the increase in insurance premiums, and there was a debate last week in Westminster Hall regarding this, and the fact that people are now deciding to actually not insure their vehicle and still go on the road, and that's increasing risk. Would he agree with me that action is needed to ensure we support young drivers to get on the roads, but get on the roads safely? And would he further look at the graduated driver's licensing scheme, which I believe would help in that safety element for young people?
Well, the Honourable Lady is continuing in a rich tradition that her illustrious colleague Jim Shannon has established, and we miss him in the debate today, but we take her as a very, very able replacement. Her debate last week was attended by a number of colleagues. I've had a chance to read it. I should have been responding to it, but I happen to be doing the adjournment in this place at the same time. And as everybody knows, you can't be in two places at the same time in the House of Commons. So my apologies that my Transport Minister colleague, Minister Brown, sat in for that debate. I'm going to take away her comments today and the points that she made in last week's debate and write to her in a bit more detail if she would be so gracious to allow me to do that. I do take the point on board. Clearly there are issues in respect of insurance on an ongoing basis. We are working with the insurance companies. There have been issues raising the price of insurance that are beyond the government's control, quite frankly. And clearly there are some points that she makes that are legitimate. But we obviously want to see a position that we want to try and address the points that she raised, both in the debate last week and obviously today. Can I turn back to the Honourable Gentleman's points? And there are certain key campaigns, whether it, obviously the changing the highway code, the changing the driver test, are key because we're trying to change drivers' behaviour. That is the most important thing. And we can rail against individual pieces of roads, but that is the way we really change road safety. And the Department for Transport's Think campaign continues to target the most at-risk group. Its aim is to reduce the number of people killed and seriously injured on the roads by changing attitudes and behaviours. I could go on in more detail, but can I make a couple of final points, which is the Safer Roads Fund has done certain key projects in North Yorkshire, whether it is £900,000 for the A167, £615,000 for the A682, £7 million for the A684 and £2.9 million for the A6108. These are substantial investments that the government in the past has made, and there is substantial investment that will follow the announcement only yesterday, which makes this debate all the more relevant. To conclude, Mr Deputy Speaker, I want to congratulate the Honourable Gentleman on his first debate. He raises important points for his local community, and I'm certain that they will take those on board. I want to gently push back on the points that he makes in terms of either the statistics locally, the actions of his local authority, and the complexity of these issues. But I also want to make the very key point that it is in all our interest to try and improve road safety up and down the country.
The question is that this House to stand adjourned. As many of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Order, order.
The proceeding has ended. 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 The